Masai Ujiri is setting up something big as the Raptors have been linked to a ton of star players over the past few weeks, and now Damian Lillard has been added to that list as the Toronto Raptors are among the favorites to land Damian Lillard via trade this offseason. So we're going to break down what these reports are saying, what would go into a Damian Lillard trade package this go around, as the Raptors had previously been linked to Damian Lillard a ton when he was getting traded away from the Portland Trail Blazers, and whether or not it makes sense for this Toronto Raptors team, because I know, looking at our comment section, even when Dame was closer to his prime years, this was a divisive topic, and now things have taken an even more wild turn. So lots of stuff to break down in this video. But before we dive into that, folks, you guys have been crushing it, hitting that subscribe button as of late, trying to get to that 38,000 subscriber mark before the NBA draft lottery. So we can get 37,400 in this video. We get 40 subs out here in this video. That'd be greatly appreciated. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the daily Toronto Raptors news coverage, because frankly, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening with the Toronto Raptors across the league, even though the playoffs are going on. Lots of interesting storylines. And the one that's going on right now involves the Milwaukee Bucks, which we discussed earlier, right? We talked about this in a previous video about how Chris Haynes came out with a report saying, I don't think Giannis will finish his career in Milwaukee. Wholesale changes are coming in if they don't make a deep run in the playoffs, front office and coaching staff. Bucks will go in a different direction, trading Giannis if things go sour in the postseason. So this is what Chris Haynes came out and said. Of course, there wasn't that crazy turnover in the front office, or there won't be, because they just extended their general manager, John Horst. So Doc Rivers is on a long contract. So the Bucks are kind of falling apart here right now. And we already discussed the Giannis scenario, him getting traded, how the Raptors could get involved in those sweepstakes. But one name that the Raptors have also been previously linked to is Damian Lillard, and it was so close, in fact, Shams even tweeted out that the Toronto Raptors and the Phoenix Suns have agreed to a 4-team trade that would send Damian Lillard to Toronto. It was so close to getting over the line back, 2 years ago when the Bucks ended up trading for Damian Lillard, that the Raptors got a tweet. There was a tweet saved in the drafts for the Toronto Raptors making one of these deals, and it didn't happen, of course, but it was very, very close at that point. So what's the new report? What's going on with this current Damian Lillard situation? Because, of course, Dame is not at the peak of his powers where he was before, but still putting up some solid scoring seasons and doing some stuff like that. Well, news came out that the Orlando Magic are favorites to land Damian Lillard if he's not with the Milwaukee Bucks next season. And you could see, even though there are a couple teams, of course, the Heat were his preferred destination previously. They've lost Jimmy Butler now at this point. The Lakers, I don't know how a Dame Luka fit would really make sense, but the Blazers going back there. But the Toronto Raptors are tied for the 4th best odds to land Damian Lillard via a trade in the offseason. So this is very, very intriguing because, again, it's not specifically that I'm over the moon about Damian Lillard. And we take a look at his stats in terms of what he's able to provide out there on the basketball court. I mean, this season, it feels, because he's dealt with some injuries and stuff, he's getting, roasted a little bit, called trash and all those things. But 25 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 37% from the three-point line, 45% from the field, 39% on corner threes at a very, very high volume. Right, 53% of his shots are from behind the three-point line. Damian Lillard is still an offensive juggernaut. And we saw in the most recent game for the Milwaukee Bucks, he's hustling out there on the defensive end, at least when he's playing against Tyrese Halliburton. So, Damian Lillard is, of course, still a phenomenal basketball player. And we know Masai Ujiri is intrigued by making a move to acquire him because it was so close that Shams nearly tweeted it out back 2 years ago now at this point. So, Damian Lillard going back in the trade market, especially if Giannis is on the trade market. There's no world. If Damian Lillard asked out of Portland, where he was loyal to the soil, where he wanted to stay there his whole career and all that, if he asked out of there because he wanted to move to a winning situation, there's no world where he is going to want to stay on the Milwaukee Bucks for a rebuild. That's just how it is. I will stand on that completely. That if Giannis is asking out, Dame is gone with him. So that's the reality of the situation the Milwaukee Bucks are dealing with here right now. So what does that mean for the Toronto Raptors, who are among the teams as possible suitors to land Damian Lillard? Well, there are some things you have to look at in regards to Dame, because he's following this year, he's getting paid $58 million guaranteed next season, and then he has a player option for the 2026-2027 season. So, of course, you have him locked in for at least 1 year. You might look at that and be like, oh, Dame, we hear everything about him being washed and being cooked and all that stuff. He's going to definitely pick up that player option. We've seen guys like Jimmy Butler. We've seen these guys around Dame's age be like, no, I'm opting out and then getting my last big NBA contract, especially with the cap spiking and things along those lines. So there might be a situation where you have to extend Damian Lillard if you end up acquiring. So that is one thing to factor in one of these trade negotiations and one of these moves, because he's dealt with some injuries in recent seasons. 21-22 season, only played 29 games. 22-23, played 58. This season, played 58 games. Last year was pretty healthy, 73 games in his career. But, the numbers have stayed relatively steady. He didn't have that 30-piece showcase that he had back in 22-23. But he's still been a solid guard out there at the point guard position. Now, am I trading an absolute over-the-moon package for Damian Lillard? Is that something that makes a ton of sense for the Toronto Raptors? No. I'm not adding a bunch of picks. I'm not adding a bunch of stuff because, you know what? The Bucks didn't really have to give that much up to the Portland Trailblazers to acquire Dame back 2 years ago when he was coming off a much stronger season. When he's coming off, a point of his career where things were riding pretty high, right? Like Damian Lillard, this man was throwing. Drew Holiday was a serious piece. Don't get me wrong. Drew Holiday is a significant asset. I don't want to give up, but a few firsts, and then Grayson Allen, I think, went out of that deal, right? The Blazers ended up trading getting back Malcolm Brogdon and Robert Williams and a couple of trash first-round picks. Like, what are we doing here for Damian Lillard? If that's the market for Dame, he's going to force his way out. That market has dwindled over the past 2 seasons, so the Raptors don't have to give up nearly as much. So I'm not giving up a crazy trade package. That's written off the table for me right from the jump. But if he's asking out from Milwaukee and, this is salary, you do have to give up some assets in order to make a deal happen. So one of the deals I've seen people discuss is RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley for Damian Lillard. And personally, I'm avoiding this one because, yes, you have to get rid of Immanuel Quickley, probably in terms of any Damian Lillard package, because you're going guard for guard, and the money is just something that, you're going to have to send out Immanuel Quickley's money in order to make a match, unless you're going to trade Scottie or trade Brandon Ingram or something along those lines. So IQ going out is one thing, but RJ Barrett is, I don't know how he's valued by GMs. I don't know why he's thrown out in all these trade discussions, trade negotiations, but RJ Barrett, looking at his stats, looking at what he's able to provide out there for this team, right? If we're looking at RJ Barrett, 21 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. RJ's that man. I don't want to deal him away for scraps. So I'm standing on this one there. The one that I've seen people be a bit more intrigued by is Jakob Poeltl and Immanuel Quickley for Damian Lillard. Now, Jakob Poeltl is a piece that is crucial. One of the most important players on the Toronto Raptors the past few seasons, because we haven't had anyone else at the center spot. The way that this trade becomes a little bit more viable, and this is not me diminishing how good IQ could be or how significant, how important Jakob Poeltl is. 15 points per game, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. Big Yak is a crucial piece to this team. And Immanuel Quickley, he's dealt with some injuries. He hasn't really been able to come into his own yet. So it's weird to say because he's been on the team a year and a half, but I feel like his impact is still a little bit of an unknown for the squad. But if we're trading Jakob Poeltl, the way this deal makes sense, because you're in win now mode if you're trading for Damian Lillard, is if you firstly believe in Ulrich Schaumsche to be a backup center in the NBA. You believe it. You buy it. Returning from health, he's going to be able to come in, block shots off the bench. Everything you saw in the G League, you buy it. And then maybe you have Chris Boucher as more of a spot center depending on the matchup. You have some insurance there. But really, it's in our draft, in our quest. Of course, our mission this entire season has been to capture that flag, acquire Cooper Flag, out there in the NBA draft, get that number 1 overall selection. I'm not losing hope, not losing faith. Because if we get Cooper Flag, I don't think this Damian Lillard trade makes a ton of sense. It's definitely the one with the Jakob Poeltl in it. But if we stay where we're at in the draft position, and then we end up drafting Derek Queen, if we end up selecting Kamen Malawach, then you have a legitimate potential starting center already at that center position. Jakob Poeltl's there. Ulrich Schaumsche is in the wings in terms of developing. We'll see how good he is. Again, he's not ready by any means yet, but if he gets a development this offseason, maybe he could be a backup big man. You have Colin Castleton, who you just gave that multi-year contract to. So then one of these deals might make a bit more sense. But still, I think it's a risk. I think there's injury risk for Damian Lillard, but you're just going all out, win now mode in next season. And frankly, if we have a lineup of Damian Lillard, RJ Barrett, Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram, and then, uber athletic center from the NBA draft that's coming in that can provide like a Derek Lively-esque role. Then off the bench, you have Jacoby Walter, you have Jamal Shead, you have Jonathan Mobo, you have maybe a Chris Boucher back, Jamison Battle. You have all the guys we've been watching developing over the course of the season. Maybe some free agent signings, whatever the heck it is. Grady Dick, it's slipping my mind because he's injured the back half of the year. That's an interesting team. That's a team that I think if Damian Lillard's healthy, could make a push, could make a run. But regardless of what it is, the Raptors continue to be named in these big name trade packages as suitors for one of these deals. We know Masai Ujiri has a history of making home run swings. Let me know if you guys want to see this happen in the comment section down below. You guys best thing as far as subscribe to the channel. I'm signing out.